Do you need a spiritual director? Hi, I'm Mike Mason. This is the Mortal Kombat Podcast. Mortal Kombat Podcast is the podcast arm of Very Christie. Very Christie is a Catholic lay apostolate devoted to help men attain the full stature of Christ by growing strong in mind, body, and spirit. If you'd like to learn more about our work, you can check us out online at verychristie.com and stjosephsociety.org. All right, good Friday to you, gentlemen. I hope you guys are doing well. Tonight is the eve of the feast of St. Joseph the Worker. So happy feast day to all the men who are in our St. Joe Society groups. Tomorrow will be a great day to celebrate our patron and just honor him and the fact that we celebrate people who toil with the work of their hands to produce a living, right? To put food on the table. For we men, of course, the punishments in the Garden of Eden, you have pain and childbearing's increased, and then toil and labor. So we can honor labor tomorrow as well. So, all right, happy feast day to all you. Okay, what I want to talk about today is, do you need a spiritual director? The answer I'm going to give is no. Okay, what made me think to give this reflection is a buddy of mine sent me a text today just asking if I had one. And I said no. And he asked if it's a good idea. And I said, yeah, it's a good idea to have one, but you don't need one. Okay, so I want to unpack this. Now, do you need a spiritual director? No. Okay. Me saying that, do I think spiritual direction is bad? No. Do I think having a spiritual director is a bad idea? No. Um, do I think if you have a good spiritual director that's helping you grow in your faith, should you, call him up after listening to this and get rid of him? No. Okay. Why then would I say spiritual direction, especially the one-on-one type, is unnecessary? One, it's a little bit impractical. Finding a spiritual director that is wise in the way of the interior life is difficult to find. I think it was Teresa of Avila, could have been Catherine of Siena said this, but they asked if you could pick a spiritual director that was holy or wise, which one would you choose? And she said wise, because the spiritual director has to really understand the spiritual life more than be holy himself. Well, it's just difficult to find people that know this stuff really well. Okay. So if you needed a spiritual director to grow in holiness, it's going to be really difficult to find one. There are way more people in need of it than there are people that can actually do it. And so it wouldn't be a very practical solution. Second, even if you did have a priest that would be capable of giving spiritual direction and know what he's talking about well, you don't absolutely need one. Okay. Um, what we do need is we need people to bounce our ideas off. If we're struggling in spiritual life, we need some people to consult, to talk through it. You do need that stuff. You need encouragement, direction, counseling. That stuff's all true. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the one-on-one variety. So what I want to do is give you 4 things you need to grow in holiness that you have access to right now, and give you guys some encouragement to produce those things. Okay. So if somebody asks me how to grow in holiness, these are 4 things I would tell them that they should do. All right. Number 1, you need a rule of life. If you've listened to this podcast in any amount of time, you know that was probably the one I was going to say. I am a firm believer in the rule of life. You absolutely need one. Every religious order has one. Here at the St. Joe Society in Very Christie, we designed one for laymen. You need a rule of life. If you want to make up your own rule, knock yourself out. Our rule works extremely well. I believe in it. I've gotten lots of feedback from hundreds of men who have grown from this process. Okay. So the feedback's been really good. I know this works because it's just traditional Catholicism. I didn't come up with anything new or fresh. If you read our rule, which you can see it on our websites, I just took the riches from the riches of our tradition. Okay. You need a rule of life. The rule is what will make you holy. If you talk to a Benedictine, a Franciscan, a Dominican, okay, a Carmelite, you have to let the rule do the work. Okay. I'm a sports guy, I like lifting weights and stuff. When you have a workout routine, you don't need a bunch of counseling about it. You don't need, if you have a good routine, the key to getting strong is to just do it. Okay. Let the workout routine build the muscle. It'll do it. Eat the diet right, do the reps, you're going to put weight on. Okay. Trust the process. A rule of life, gentlemen, trust the process. Okay. So if you're in one of our groups and you're practicing our rule of life, be faithful to it. Trust the process. The rule is there to make you holy. Okay. So just let it do its work. So that's one thing, rule of life. Second thing I put down, you need good friends. Okay. If you guys are like me, I'm blessed to have really good friends. Okay. Really, really, really good guys. Surrounded by lots of great guys. I have really good, tight friends. I have guys that I'm as close with, but they're just good, positive guys to be around. I'm just very blessed in that regard. One of the reasons why we started St. Jose and Vera Christi is to help men kind of build a brotherhood, help men find good friends in their parish to grow in holiness with. You need friends to grow in holiness. Now, if you're like me, when I'm hanging around with my buddies, we don't talk about super serious stuff all the time. Okay. It's not like we need to, I need to divulge my soul or consult them on what's going on or anything like that. However, all of us will have times in our life when you need some outside voices. You need some trusted people to bounce ideas off of, who can give you some positive feedback, some encouragement, maybe a little bit of reproof. Okay. You really need good friends for that. If you can't find a spiritual director that can play that role, friends can go a really, really, really long way when you need them. And like I said, most men, we don't sit around emoting about stuff and talking about these deep, dark. We don't do that. Okay. And I imagine you guys, most of your friendships, most of your get togethers are not like that. But you do need some guys in your corner that you can turn to when necessary. Okay. So, first rule of life. Second, good group of buddies. If you're in one of our groups, you already got a good group of guys there. Okay. Lean on them when you need them. Third, you need to frequent the sacraments. Okay. Obviously, we have to fulfill the precepts of the church, right? The basics. Okay. Go to mass every Sunday and holy day of obligation, yearly confession, all that sort of stuff. But you got to frequent the sacraments. Try to get to mass more often in the week if you can. Okay. Even if it's one time. If you can't do that, try to make visits to the Blessed Sacrament. Try to make that work. Okay. Frequent the sacraments, at least on Sunday, of course, and Holy Day of obligation, but try to get there a little bit more if you can. Second, penance. Okay. Practice penance. Get to confession at least once a month, maybe once every 2 weeks or something. Go to penance at the same place as far as possible. Okay. I remember readings from some spiritual authors, and they said what some people do is they bounce around to confessors because you kind of get, if you're like me, like a lot of times I'm confessing the same sins over and over and over, which is embarrassing. Okay. That's normal. Okay. Most of us, especially as you start growing spiritually, there's just going to be a couple little footholds left that you got to take care of. It's normal to confess the same things and struggle with the same things. Okay. You don't want to run around confessors. It's good to confess to someone who knows you, even if you're behind the screen. Like I don't do face to face. I like the screen. Makes me feel like I'm, confessing to God. I do try to get the same priest. When I lived in Cincinnati, I could schedule it. I'd always look for that same priest. Would he know me if he saw me on the street? No. Does he know my voice because I'd go to him often? Probably. Okay. And then psychologically for me, I'm not running away from this father who directs me. Parish I'm at now, okay? When I go to confession at my parish, okay? Now I can't predict which of our priests will be in there, but I want to make sure I'm returning to the same priest. If you like doing the face to face, that's a great way to build a relationship with a confessor, and that can serve as spiritual direction. Okay, so just frequent penance. Okay, so number one rule of life: be faithful to it, trust the process. Two, good group of buddies you can bounce ideas off of, you can lean on when you may be going through a tough period, okay, which is totally normal. Three, frequent the sacraments. What we have in mind here is the Eucharist and penance. Okay, frequent those. Fourth thing, okay, fourth and final suggestion: fulfill the obligations of your state in life. Okay, take care of the business that's in front of you. God, by His providence, puts you in your family, in your workplace, in your parish, in your community. You know, take care of the business that's right in front of you. And to accompany this piece of advice, and this is something I talk about a lot, but I want to develop more theologically myself and then emphasize it more. You need to um, you need the grace of the present moment. You need to be in tune with the grace of the present moment. What I mean is, because God is eternal, He's not in the past, He's not in the future. He's in the now. Okay, every moment, God in eternity, past, present, futures are all present to God. For us, there is no past and there is no future. There's only now. Okay. So we need to stay in the present. Now, when I say that, I don't mean don't plan for the future financially, and I don't mean that. I don't want to be taking some absurd extreme. What I mean is, what is God asking me to do right now? And request the necessary graces from Him in those moments. That's the idea. Okay. So, what did God ask you to do right now? What's He asking you to do right now? Okay. That's what we want to focus on. If it's the time you've set aside in your rule for prayer, pray. If it's the time to be at work, work. If it's the time to be at your St. Joe Society group, Very Christian group, be there. If it's the time you're supposed to be recreating, doing something fun, do that. If it's the time you're supposed to be watching TV and chilling out, do that. You want to stay in the grace of the present moment. Okay. You want to, what does God ask me to do right now? And respond to that. Guys, if you do this, if you have a rule of life that you're faithful to, if you have a good group of buddies that you're around, if you're frequently in the sacraments and you're attempting to the best of your ability to stay in the present moment and fulfill the obligations of the present moment, you're going to grow in holiness. Guaranteed. And I'm not making, promises from Mike's imagination, okay? These are the fundamental things God asks us to do. And when we live according to how He wants us to live and we let Him guide us, and when we make use of the graces He gives us to fulfill our duty, okay, and to grow up, just going to. Remember, guys, He wants this for us. God wants us to become holy. He wants us to have friendship with Him. He wants these things for us. So just do it. So, do you need a spiritual director? No. If you're blessed with one, great. Okay. But if you're in one of our groups, your priest meets with you once a month. That's a kind of spiritual direction. I know it's not one on one, but he's giving you some direction and some encouragement things. You don't need a one on one spiritual director. Keep the rule, right? Um, have good friends, frequent the sacraments, stay in the present moment, make use of the graces of the present moment, and fill your obligations in life, and you will become a saint because that's what God wants for you. All right, guys, happy feast day tomorrow, St. Joseph the Worker. God bless you guys. Thank you for all your support and listening and all those good things. One way you can support us, hit like, subscribe, pass it on to friends if you think they'd find this helpful. That helps us to spread the good news that we're trying to spread here. So God bless you guys. I'll see you next time.